Well, it was interesting because we had to create a whole world of the football club. We originally were going to use Crystal Palace. We were going to use their stadium to film the football matches, uh, which is Selhurst Park. So that kind of led on to the colour scheme for the team because Crystal Palace play in red and blue. They have a lot of red and blue seats in their stadium. So we felt it was best to kind of link to their colours with the Richmond team in order to have less work to do in terms of using the stadium so we could fit in. So I basically started with the dressing room and Ted's office uh, as a kind of core bit of the set, and then moved out from there. The whole of the training centre is kind of one set with interlocking rooms, so that you can move between rooms without cutting. It's like a composite set. Because when I read the original script, it felt very West Wing in that a lot of the conversations were happening walking down corridors and between rooms. So I wanted to give the camera the opportunity to move between different rooms in the set without having to cut. So all those kind of training center rooms are interlinked to give kind of a smooth passage. And they're all kind of, because we didn't really have cameramen and DOPs on till later, I kind of took a little bit of a bold decision to make all the lighting, work from the ceiling lights rather than have windows. The whole training center is supposed to be built within the stand of the stadium. So it meant we could really use the space in the studio because we didn't have to have windows and backings. But it meant all the lighting had to come from the intrinsic lighting of the spaces themselves. So we made a feature of the ceiling and the ceiling lights, which luckily the DOPs, the cameramen took on board and really kind of went for, and they've done a brilliant job in it. So it was creating a space where the camera and the actors could all work 360 degrees and kind of use the link between the locker room and Ted's office and see views through and see people in different spaces and then move through to them. I suppose that's how to explain it. I think probably the most difficult thing was trying to make it feel real. I think although we don't really know what happens, I mean, I think generally we don't see what happens backstage at a football team. Obviously, we all know the world, well, we particularly in the UK, and I think worldwide, people know the look of football, and people go every week. So I think what I was probably most nervous about was making it feel real, like it was a real team, because I think that's kind of part of the job with all of us, is to kind of set a real reality so that the comedy can work on top of that. I don't think the show was ever meant to be kind of a parody of the teams. It was more the fact that the comedy was character-led through the script. It's not really about the football, but I think we all wanted to try and make it feel like it was a real world. And then when you have these kind of characters, when you're investigating the characters, you kind of feel immersed because you believe the world of the football club. So I think my most nervousness was about getting it right and people believing that it was a proper club, which I hope we've done. And I think from the reaction feels like we did.
As Paul said, it was Crystal Palace because we were going to use the Crystal Palace stadium. We actually just used the exterior of Crystal Palace now, but that we used the colours of Crystal Palace to for the uniform, and then we designed our own logos and badges, and we have those embroidered on, and obviously the names and the numbers on the back. and we have a home kit and an away kit and a training kit. So there's kind of 3 different uniforms. We call them kits rather than uniforms. I mean, it definitely starts from talking to the actors themselves. So I'll discuss with Hannah and Juno the scenes and what they do in the scenes and how they feel in the scenes and their emotions that they go through in the scenes. And we kind of go, collaboratively from there. Rebecca is a very successful and strong person in the show, but she does have this vulnerable side. But we try and make her costume sort of fit that sort of powerful position that she holds. But also, as Paul said before, trying to keep it real. And we try and make her look that like she fits in the football world, but she keeps a femininity as well. I think the 2 can go hand in hand. So hopefully we achieve that. And also Juno, who's her character Keely, is well, they both go on a journey, but the Keely character has gone on a sort of very steady maturing journey, I guess. So her costumes have just become, and also through the second series that we're filming at the moment, they're just becoming sort of slightly more mature, still fun and very like high fashion, but kind of maturing at the same time to match what's happening in her life. But it's very much a collaborative thing, and and Nicky and I will collaborate as well, obviously, on their looks.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. Yeah. Juno in particular, I mean, Keely's just a great character. So, but then at the start of season 1, Jason, the way that it's written, especially with Jason, every character has their own journey, as Jacky was saying. So, like, we have to take that into account, because when we first see Keely in the locker room, you see kind of the old page 3 girl images in the locker, and then that's the kind of the start of her journey, and we're trying to then build her into this professional, so which is very much done through the costume and the makeup, the fact that she wants to be taken more seriously. So then we will kind of well, especially with Juno, she's so passionate about every aspect of her character. I mean, obviously Hannah is too, but I'm Juno's personal, so I just, I mean, Hannah and I chat a lot, but we Juno has a lot of looks. I mean, I think we're on look 20 so far this season. So, and they're all, some of them are a bit wacky depending on the scenario. And then sometimes she's just at home and we want to keep it real. And she's just like, Jacky and I were literally on set with her yesterday in her house.
Changing things.
Changing things at the last minute. Are we gonna, is she gonna throw on a pair of sweats? Is she gonna chuck her hair up in a bun? We did 4 changes yesterday, Jacky?
Yeah, and also things. Yes, we were doing all the scenes in Keely's apartment with her and Roy, and I think as they rehearse, things come out of the rehearsals. So, we end up sort of changing things at the last minute and, to suit whatever they've rehearsed. But it's good fun. And as Nicky said, Juno is so into her character. It's great actually to have somebody that's so collaborative and so excited about it all.
Yeah, she loves it, and Hannah as well, because
Hannah absolutely as well. Yeah,
her age. She's playing her age. She's literally playing her age in the show, and she loves being, you know, being able to play her own age, and being a strong, independent woman and all that stuff. And she very much wants to reflect that in her costume and her makeup and her hair. And especially when we see her in season 1, and she starts off, you know, she's hiding the fact that she's been, you know, treated so poorly, and she's trying to stay strong and come across as this very together person despite what Rupert's putting her through. So she wanted to be very composed, very together. And then we get those moments when we see her at home without, you know, in her dressing gown with her hair, makeup off, and her hair a mess. And you get to see a bit of an insight into the real Rebecca. And it's things like that when you're breaking down a script, and you have these ideas to change it, they make such a difference. And all the execs and all the writers, they really appreciate, what we all do to kind of put those little things in place to help tell the story.
Yeah, and make a rounded person, so you see a sort of complete person rather than one.
And reality, and we all go through those times, don't we? So we can all relate to, probably everyone can relate to what Rebecca Welton, not being married to a multimillionaire who cheats on you necessarily, but just being brokenhearted and just, feeling at a loss with what to do with yourself. But she picks herself up and plasters on the war paint and puts herself in an amazing outfit. And that was kind of what we wanted to reflect at the beginning of season 1.
Picking Rebecca's dress, we wanted a dress that, as she was moving around the room and she was doing her speech, that the dress looked great from every angle. So, we picked a dress that, looked great from the front, looked great from the side, looked great from the back. And obviously that flattered her as well. And, and stuck to the sort of understated chic that she has. And similarly with the Keeley character, we did something that was fun. Actually, the Keeley character, we kind of understated her for that. I think she wanted to be sort of sophisticated for that event. So she wasn't quite as loud as she normally, as her clothes quite often reflect.
So sometimes when you do big crowd days, we have like big marquees put up. We had 21 additional makeup artists for the gala, all making all the kind of the crowd people look as glamorous and wealthy as possible. And then for the main team, gosh, it was really busy. And we had obviously Anthony, who plays Rupert, made a surprise entrance. And he'd actually, bit of fun story, he'd actually had a little bit of an injury the week before he was due to make his first appearance on Ted Lasso. He had a little facial injury on his face. So we were all like, oh my God, Rupert's gonna look like he's been in a fight, but we managed to cover it up. Hannah's look, Rebecca's look, we actually based on a picture of Gwen Stefani. Hannah and I found a picture of her on a red carpet, and she had this fabulous updo with this kind of, really textured blonde, amazing hair, which Hannah has anyway. So that was easy. And we just kind of did a fitting and threw it up. And she needed to stand tall and proud because it was like her first time she was hosting the gala without him. She didn't know he was going to put in an appearance. And she, the whole point of the gala was that it was quite terrifying for Rebecca to suddenly be doing this on her own. And she kind of wanted to raise as much money in the story as Rupert had managed to do the year before. So she was feeling all this enormous pressure. So she needed her best face on. And we had a lot of fun. Some of the boys looked a bit smarter. Little Nate had, don't know if anyone noticed, but we gave him a little bit of an extra, because he had his suit on. So he had like a sharp little hairdo going on. And then we had Jamie Tart with what was she doing with an ice cube? She was like what did he pour something down himself with an ice cube? I remember, and he had his abs out, didn't he? And he was all like, I remember that, Jacky. That was brilliant. You chose to, didn't you? He didn't have his shirt on. It was just like,
yeah. He was shirtless in a very, very nice fitted suit. Yeah, and the hanky in the pocket. Yeah, but he carried it off pretty well.
That was hilarious. And then the Cheryl coming over and propositioning him, and yeah, such a funny storyline. So we had a great time. I think we did that over about 4 days. Was it, Paul? Something like that? Did we do an extra day in the end? I can't remember.
3 days.
Was it 3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very hot in there. I remember we were trying to get the aircon turned on because there were so many of us, and all the boys were in suits, and everyone was just like, it was a really, really hot day. And Jason, we had his normal Ted look, but I guess I made his hair a little bit more structured. Sometimes we have it a bit floppy. He likes it to be a bit, he calls it shaggy. But on that day, I was like, nope, you have to look super smart, because when he sees Rebecca for the first time, she says, doesn't she? She says, Ted, look at you, kind of thing. So I was like, we have to look super sharp for the gala. And he let me, so that's good.
Well, yeah, the normal way really, but we started with Rebecca because she was the female lead, and they brought me on a little bit early just to really concentrate on finding her. And then after that, we went on to the Diamond Dogs, they are now known as, the core Richmond football club and team. Yeah, but there was a lot of because obviously we had to find actors who could play football as well, so that was interesting. There saw some amazing auditions from actors, doing some keepy uppies in their garden with a mate videoing them and stuff. And we had yeah, I mean, it's also a testament to the writing, because I do think the writing's really, really clever. And I think everyone has their moments where they can really shine. But we did make sure that we were casting actors who could do comedy rather than just comedians, because we really needed to see heart and soul from every single member of the cast. So we did, they had to be really, really strong actors as well as clever comics.
I mean, I don't feel any pressure. I don't know about you guys, Nicky and Paul. Do you feel pressure?
I felt more pressure for the UK audience, because I felt like it was quite American humour. Football's such a sacred British institution that I was a bit like, will the British and European audience appreciate it as much as the American audience, especially because there is so much. Jason and Brendan in particular, their dialogue is so much about American pop culture that I
felt the same. I felt like I just wanted to make sure that we were properly representing the Premiership.
Yeah, I think that's what we've tried to do, to be as true to English footballers and that world as we possibly can. And I think then we just get on with our jobs and do it as best, as best that we can. So you're not thinking about it all the time. It's more of a sort of second nature, I suppose.
And the writing's been really respectful to British culture as well. Like Jason and especially wanted to really introduce so many British isms, like going down to the pub and having a pint after work, and all those kind of and all the football traditions that you would, when you see the fans, coming into the stadium and all, and it very much feels like you could be stood outside,
And Brendan is very knowledgeable about, he's a football fan. He's an Arsenal fan. And he's very knowledgeable about football and the whole world. So that does come through definitely in the script.
And Paul will tell you about the second question, because he will know about locations much more than us, I think. Are we getting out to more of the UK? Are we getting out to more of the UK, Paul? Are we? Can we even say?
Well, we are and we aren't. I mean, the one thing I think that makes the show work is the fact that it's looking at a club which is in a small community. I think if we took it more UK wide, it wouldn't have the same effect. What you're looking at is small characters in a small town. It's effectively like Northern Exposure or something like that. It's a small character study of a small area. And I think if it was more UK wide, you probably wouldn't get the nuance that you get because it's in a small area. And I think when you read the script, because the first thing when somebody tells you it's a fish out of water thing of a US guy coming to England and chaos ensues, but it's the script plays against that in terms of it plays against type for Ted and Beard, who are not the usual UK representation of Americans. And it's not the same for the British people, who are not the same as US, versions of British characters. Everybody's got a bit more depth. And I think the characters are written so that the more and more you go through the series, you understand, you have empathy with people. And I think that's the byword of the whole series is empathy, because you suddenly start to understand why people react the way they do, even if they're, predispositioned to be a not very nice character, like almost Rebecca is at the start, because you think she's derailing the club because of her bitterness about the divorce. But as you unravel that, you understand why she's doing that, and you have empathy for her, even though she's supposed to be the kind of slightly nasty character. So I think the empathy only works when it's a kind of small community. And I think to open it up more to the rest of the UK would not work so well. It's so brilliantly written because it's about small characters in a small place. And I think those are always the best kind of series, either from the UK, whether it be Fawlty Towers and it's all taking place in a terrible hotel in Totnes, or it's Hill Street Blues and it's a precinct show about one police station. And that's what attracted me to the script originally, was that it's a character study of people in a small environment where they're all pushed together. But it has characters which are not tropes, as it were. They're always a bit nuanced and slightly different.
Well, there always is for me. In fact, I have more fun casting the smaller roles because you can just let your imagination run wild and you don't have to worry about, casting a name or a known or a whatever. You can just go with the people that are really good and can deliver. And what was really great was that, I was just casting for a bunch of Americans and they didn't know anybody. And so they thought everyone was fantastic. And so I just literally showed them all my favorite people and got all my favorite people in all of the smaller parts. So it was brilliant. It was a dream job, really. Well, that was a really interesting story, actually, because in the original script, the Jamie Tart character played by Phil Dunster was called Danny Rojas, and he was the arrogant star player, tricksy, with attitude, but they wanted him to be from South America, a Hispanic Latino actor. And we searched far and wide. I searched here in the UK and Europe, and then they had someone in America looking in America, and we just couldn't find someone right for the part. Phil Dunster was right for the part, but he was British. So in that big search for what was called Danny Rojas, we got this tape from this amazing guy, Cristo Fernandez, who actually used to be a pro footballer in Guadalajara, Mexico, but happened to have done a year's training in acting in the UK and retained a UK agent who I knew of. And so through them, we got this self-tape and we were like, who is this guy? He's not right for Danny Rojas, but because he's so exuberant and fun and sweet and nice, where we kind of wanted the opposite. But that, that what happened with him was that everyone saw this tape and they're like, okay, so he's not Danny Rojas, but we've got to get him in this. We've got to get this. And so what they did was they rewrote the whole script, and we made Phil Dunster Jamie Tart, British, and then we created this whole new character now called Danny Rojas, and that's your Cristo Fernandez. And that's all down to just the genius of two different actors who just outshone everybody else that we auditioned, getting, the parts written around them.
And can I just say that Cristo is absolutely lovely. He is a dream. He's a dream to work with. He absolutely is.
He is the best.
And you can tell all of Mexico that.
He's literally the best human on earth. And
yeah, he is.
Life is life. I think
that's the thing. Everything you see, that character, that's him. They wrote it for him. So it's just lovely.